This is the story of Elijah versus the prophets of Baal, where ancient faith collides with modern skepticism and where the very nature of belief is put to the ultimate test. For 3 years, the sky had been silent. No rain, no dew. The land, a cracked and thirsty mouth. The people, desperate and afraid. This is the story of the day when heaven answered. But this wasn't a natural drought. According to the historical record, one man had predicted it, pronounced it. Some would say cursed the land with it. His name was Elijah, and he had vanished into the wilderness, leaving a nation to slowly die of thirst. King Ahab searched everywhere for him, not to honor him, not to seek his wisdom, but because Elijah's prophecy had come true, and only he could end it. Ancient texts describe a famine so severe that mothers were willing to do the unthinkable to survive. Newborn babies were killed and roasted over an open fire. Corpses lay abandoned in the streets, too numerous to bury. After many days, the Lord's word came to Elijah in the 3rd year, saying, "Go, show yourself to Ahab. Go, show yourself to Ahab, and I will send rain on the earth." 1 Kings chapter 18, verse 1. Elijah went to show himself to Ahab. The famine was severe in Samaria. Kings chapter 18, verse 2. Meanwhile, Ahab said to Obadiah, who was over the household, "Go through the land, to all the springs of water and to all the brooks. Perhaps we may find grass and save the horses and mules alive, that we not lose all the animals." Kings chapter 18, verse 5. As Obadiah was on the way, behold, Elijah met him. He recognized him and fell on his face and said, "Is it you, my lord Elijah?" He answered him, "It is I. Go, tell your lord, behold, Elijah is here." Though Obadiah was reluctant, he feared as soon as he tells Ahab, "The Lord's Spirit will carry him." And when Ahab does not find Elijah, Obadiah will be a dead man. On top of that, when Jezebel killed the Lord's prophets, he also hid 100 men of the Lord's prophets with 50 to a cave, and fed them with bread and water. But listen to Elijah's response. Elijah said, "As the Lord of armies lives, before whom I stand, I will surely show myself to him today." Kings chapter 18, verse 15. So Obadiah went to meet Ahab and told him, and Ahab went to meet Elijah. When Ahab saw Elijah, Ahab said to him, "Is that you, you troubler of Israel?" 1 Kings chapter 18, verses 16 and 17. But Elijah's response was even more disturbing. He didn't deny it. Instead, he issued a challenge that would determine the fate of an entire nation. Mount Carmel, a place considered sacred by multiple religions. On this day, Elijah demanded that all of Israel gather there, along with 450 prophets of Baal. He answered, "I have not troubled Israel, but you and your father's house, in that you have forsaken the Lord's commandments, and you have followed the Baals." 1 Kings chapter 18, verse 18. "Now therefore send and gather to me all Israel to Mount Carmel, and 450 of the prophets of Baal." 1 Kings chapter 18, verse 19. But here's where our mystery begins. What exactly was Elijah proposing? Elijah came near to all the people and said, "How long will you waver between the two sides? If the Lord is God, follow him, but if Baal, then follow him." The people didn't say a word. Kings chapter 18, verse 21. 2 altars, 2 sacrifices, 2 prayers. Whichever God answered by sending fire from heaven would be declared the true God. "Let them therefore give us 2 bulls, and let them choose 1 bull for themselves, and cut it in pieces, and lay it on the wood, and put no fire under. And I will dresses the other bull, and lay it on the wood, and put no fire under it. You call on the name of your God, and I will call on the Lord's name. The God who answers by fire, let him be God." All the people answered, "What you say is good." 1 Kings chapter 18, verses 22, 23, and 24. The prophets of Baal agreed immediately. Why wouldn't they? Baal was the storm god, the lord of lightning and thunder. Fire from heaven was literally his domain. 450 prophets, all serving Baal, the storm god, the rainmaker. Surely they could call down fire. The prophets of Baal went first. They prepared their altar, arranged the wood, laid out the bull. Everything was ready. From sunrise they began their prayers, dancing, chanting, calling out to their God. Hour after hour, the sun climbed higher, their voices grew hoarse, their movements became more frantic. Noon arrived, still nothing. The prophets shouted louder. They danced with more fury. And then they began to cut themselves. With swords and spears, they slashed their own bodies. Blood poured onto the ground as they screamed for Baal to answer them. But here's the haunting detail that the ancient text emphasizes. There was no response. No one answered. Imagine the scene. 450 men, bleeding and exhausted, crying out to a God who remained completely silent. The afternoon sun beating down. The crowd watching in horror. How long can you pray to silence before you realize you're praying to nothing at all? And then Elijah spoke. Elijah said to all the people, "Come near to me," and all the people came near him. He repaired the Lord's altar that had been thrown down. 1 Kings chapter 18, verse 30. As evening approached, Elijah finally stepped forward. But what he did next was so strange, so seemingly counterproductive, that it deepens our mystery even further. He built an altar using 12 stones, one for each tribe of Israel. Then he dug a trench around it, deep enough to hold several gallons of water. Remember, this land hadn't seen rain in 3 years. Water was more precious than gold. People were dying of thirst. He put the wood in order and cut the bull in pieces and laid it on the wood. He said, "Fill 4 jars with water and pour it on the burnt offering and on the wood." 1 Kings chapter 18, verse 33. Then he told them to do it again, and again, and again. 3 times they drenched the altar until water filled the trench and everything was soaking wet. Why would anyone deliberately make it harder for fire to ignite? What was he trying to prove? At the time of the evening offering, Elijah the prophet came near and said,
"Lord, the God of Abraham, of Isaac, and Israel, let it be known today that you are God in Israel, and that I am your servant, and that I have done all these things at your word. Hear me, Lord, hear me, that this people may know that you, Lord, are God, and that you have turned their heart back again." 1 Kings chapter 18, verses 36 and 37.
And then the Lord's fire fell and consumed the burnt offering, the wood, the stones, and the dust, and licked up the water that was in the trench. When all the people saw it, they fell on their faces. They said to them, "The Lord, He is God. The Lord, He is God." 1 Kings chapter 18, verses 38 and 39. But here's where our mystery takes its darkest turn. Elijah's command was immediate. Seize the prophets of Baal. Don't let anyone get away. All 450 of them were brought down to the Kishon Valley, and there by the brook they were executed. Elijah said to Ahab, "Get up, eat and drink, for there is the sound of abundance of rain." 1 Kings chapter 18, verse 41. But the story doesn't end with blood. It ends with water. After the execution, Elijah climbed back to the top of Mount Carmel. He bent down to the ground, put his face between his knees, perhaps to give thanks to God, of Abraham, of Isaac, and Israel. "Go and look toward the sea," he told his servant. The servant looked. Nothing. Just the same empty horizon that had mocked them for 3 years. "Go back," Elijah said. 6 times, the servant returned with the same report. Nothing. No clouds, no change, just endless, merciless blue sky. But on the 7th time, a cloud as small as a man's hand is rising from the sea. Within minutes, the sky turned black. The wind howled, and then, after 3 years of silence, the heavens opened. The rain that fell that day ended the drought. Crops would grow again. Children would stop dying of thirst. The famine was over. The Lord's hand was on Elijah, and he tucked his cloak into his belt and ran before Ahab to the entrance of Jezreel. 1 Kings chapter 18 verse 46. 3,000 years later, Mount Carmel still stands. The brook Kishon still flows, and the questions from that day still echo through history. Was this a miracle, a demonstration of divine power, or something even stranger? A test that revealed who was genuinely connected to the supernatural and who was performing empty rituals. The mystery of Mount Carmel isn't just about ancient religion. It's about the terrifying moment when belief meets reality, when faith is tested not by words, but by fire. And it leaves us with the most chilling question of all. What would happen if your deepest beliefs were put to the same test? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more mysterious stories from ancient history.